But as you're looking at overcommitting to things, go back to step 1 where we assessed our day, apply the Eisenhower Matrix, and see if there's things that we can take off our plate completely. Welcome to your Classroom Coffee Break. I'm John Van Duzen, long-term teacher, coach, and Army officer. Today we're going to talk about how to make a daily schedule that saves you time. So first let's talk about why you actually need a schedule as a teacher. So the first reason is going to be burnout prevention. And I just did a podcast episode on teacher burnout, which I will link in the show notes. But it's one of those things that if you have a plan, it's much easier to adjust from that plan and get more things done throughout the day than if you don't have any plan at all and you're just kind of going through your day willy-nilly. By actually writing things out and having that plan, it's going to help you to be less stressed and also better help your students. Also, it's going to help you with that work-life balance. A lot of times we get caught up in what we need to do for work, and it's very easy to keep going with a project, even though maybe it is good enough, or maybe it's done enough, or maybe it's something that you can pass off to somebody else, which I'm going to cover in the next few minutes here. But by building a schedule, you're actually able to put in those work items as well as those personal items to keep that proper work-life balance. Another thing having a schedule is going to do is help you be more efficient, especially if you have those tasks that you don't want to complete. If you see them on your schedule, on your calendar, and you know you have to do them, you can mentally prepare yourself to get them done instead of procrastinating and pushing them off until they become an emergency. So before we can actually build this schedule that helps us out, we need to assess our current routine. And there's many ways we can do this. Probably the easiest way for me as a teacher would be to simply have a note card sitting on my desk that I can put in my pocket and mark down how I spend my day. And this can start in the morning when I wake up, or this can start when I first get to school. It depends on which part of my day I really need to have more organized. There's also a bunch of digital ways you could do this, either marking things down on your Google Calendar or Google Tasks. If you use iCalendar on your iPhone, iPad, or MacBook, that would be another easy way. But I'd encourage you to really take a look at how you're spending your time throughout the day. And for you, maybe each day is similar in that you can track one day and have a lot of great data on how you spend your day, or maybe your days are different, especially if you're an art teacher, a special ed teacher, or principal. You may need to track 3 to 5 days just to see how you spend those days and see which parts of your day are consistent and which parts of your day are not. After you have assessed your current routine, step 2 is going to be identify your priorities. And I have a great way for you to do this called the Eisenhower Matrix. So if you're watching the video version of this podcast, you can see the Eisenhower Matrix on your screen right now. And if you're listening to the audio only, I will describe it. There is 4 quadrants. In the upper left-hand quadrant, we have high urgency, high importance. These are things that must be done right now. In the lower left-hand quadrant, it's high urgency, but low importance. So those are things that you can delegate to other people. And as a classroom teacher, a lot of times I will have students do these high urgency, low importance tasks. In the upper right-hand quadrant, we have low urgency, but high importance. So these are things that need to go on your schedule. And this would be a perfect place for you to begin building that schedule out so that you can be proactive on those tasks that you have to do instead of reactive when they become an emergency. And on the lower right-hand quadrant, those are things that have low urgency and low importance. And those are tasks that maybe you just need to eliminate. And whether you are watching or listening, if you go to johnvanduzen.com in the products section, you'll see that I have a printable PDF of the Eisenhower Matrix that you can print and fill out to help you with your scheduling and your planning when it comes to building out those different priorities. So go ahead, head to johnvanduzen.com and check that out. I'll also put a link down in the show notes directly to the priority planner, the Eisenhower Matrix. So after you've assessed your current routine and you've identified those priorities, you need to embrace the idea of time blocking. A great example of that is when you look at Google Calendar, you can actually block off a period of time. And if you are watching the video version, you can see on the left-hand side, I have my workout blocked out. I have my reading for fun blocked out. Organizing desk, past work. So you can see that I actually have those blocks of time scheduled out. You can also use a bullet type journal. You can use a physical planner, anything you can do to help organize your own thoughts. Personally, I like to use that Google Calendar because it's available not only on my phone, but on my computer, on my iPad. I have access to it all over the place, and I can also send it to my colleagues. I can send it to my wife so that other people can see what's on my schedule. And I think one of the biggest things you need to do with that time blocking, which I also mentioned in the teacher burnout video, is make sure you're scheduling time for yourself, whether that's a workout, whether that's a group that you go to every Wednesday night. But if it's not on your schedule, it's very easy to find other things to do other than take care of yourself. Another step that's going to help you in your saving of time is batching tasks. And what I mean by that is instead of replying to an email and then trying to get a part of a lesson plan and then making some copies, if you take all those tasks and batch them together, so I'm going to take 10 minutes, I'm going to reply to all the parent emails that I need to do. Then I'm going to take 20 minutes and I'm going to build out the lesson plan for the next 3 days. Then I'm going to take 10 minutes and I'm going to go to the copy machine and make all the copies that I need to make, provided it's working that day. Then you're actually going to save some time. But also when it comes to those tasks that you don't want to do, again, you can mentally prepare yourself because you have it blocked out on your schedule. You know, you're going to sit down for 20 minutes and you're going to knock out that task that you really don't want to do. Now, there are some challenges when you start to build out your schedule. The first one is going to be interruptions. This can be especially true on your prep time. And there are times that you absolutely need to go down the hall and just talk with that teacher from another classroom, sometimes about work things, sometimes about personal stuff. Again, just to keep your sanity, especially if you're working with kids all day, you need to have some of that adult interaction. But there's other times to prevent interruptions. You just need to close your classroom door. You need to turn off your phone. You need to turn off the notifications on your email. So whatever tasks you have batched at that particular time and blocked off on your schedule, you can complete without interruption. Another challenge you may have to overcome is overcommitment. This is something that personally I am very bad at, is overcommitting to certain things. I always think that I can do more than I actually have time to do. A couple ways to overcome that is to go back to that Eisenhower Matrix and determine, where is that task that someone's asking me to do? Is it something I have to do right now? Can I schedule it? Is it something I can delegate to somebody else? Maybe even a student can complete this task. Or is it something I simply need to say no to? Another way to overcome overcommitment is, if you noticed in my Google Calendar, those blocks of time had space in between. That space in between I like to call slush time. So if a task is taking a little longer than I originally thought, I can take that extra time and complete that task. Or if something finishes a little early, maybe I can start the next task a little earlier depending on time and place. Or sometimes that slush time goes back to that self-care. And maybe that's the time that I just doom scroll on my phone, I play a game of solitaire, or I do something that I want to do. But as you're looking at overcommitting to things, go back to step 1 where we assessed our day. Apply the Eisenhower Matrix and see if there's things that we can take off our plate completely. The last, but certainly not the only other challenge we're going to talk about today is procrastination. And I recently read a book that talked about procrastination, and there's a technique that really worked for me, and that is to pick the very smallest thing you can do to start that task and do that. Now you're one step along the way. The hardest part of any journey is taking the first step. For instance, let's say that you have to grade some essays and get them in the grade book. First off, I'm going to batch those tasks and I'm going to grade all the essays at once. Then I'm going to go to the grade book and enter all the grades at once. That's going to save me a little bit of time. But the first thing I need to do is I need to take those essays out of the turn-in bin and set them on my desk. Step 1, I've already started. Step 2, I need to get a red pen. Step 3, I need to make sure the name is on the first one. I've already completed 3 steps in my journey of grading those essays. And by doing that, it's going to help me prevent procrastination. So as you're working towards refining your scheduling process, I'm going to ask that you start small. Pick one part of your day. Maybe the part of the day you pick is simply from when you wake up to when you get to work in the morning. What does that involve? Is it a workout? Is it reading? Getting kids ready for school? A commute? Next, I'm going to ask you to test and adjust. Nobody expects you to get it perfect the first time. So the first time you build out that schedule, maybe you like doing it on paper. Maybe that only works for a week. Maybe you try to use Google Calendar, but it doesn't work for you. The important part is that you keep trying to make yourself a little bit better every single day. And another great way, and I mentioned it before, is to involve others. So that's, again, why I like Google Calendar. I can share my calendar with my colleagues, share it with my spouse, and that also helps with the overcommitment piece. If I share my calendar with my colleagues, and they see that I have time blocked off, maybe they look to somebody else to do one of those low priority, low urgency tasks. I'm always looking to make myself better and more efficient in the classroom, so I would love to hear your tips and strategies on how you create and keep track of your schedule on a daily basis. Engage on the comments and what did I miss? What are some things that you do personally to help with your scheduling? How do you make it more efficient? And how do you make it better? Till next time, thanks for stopping by your classroom coffee break.